Today we're going to make some miniature copper pots using copper tube caps that are used in plumbing. Can't wait to show you how to do this. So you can see here I've got these copper tube caps. The ones that I'm using are 1/2 inch. At my local hardware store, they came in 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch, and 1 inch. So I've chosen, of course, to use the smallest ones, but you can use larger ones if you're doing 1/12 scale. These ones are the only ones that are kind of small enough for my stuff anyways. So you can see here they're like the caps that you would use to, I guess, seal off the end of copper pipes. And they're perfect for making pots. So these little rivets, they're made out of brass. And I'm going to be soldering these little brass rivets onto the side of the copper pots so that I have something to mount the handle on with. So right now what I'm doing is I'm just cutting up some solder because I don't believe that I need very much solder at all. So if I use a ton of solder, it'll run all over the side of the pot and kind of make them look less attractive. So this is why I'm pre-cutting it. So today I'm going to be using a torch rather than try to use the solder gun because I have to heat up both the brass piece as well as the copper piece in order for these two metals to be able to stick to one another with the solder. So you can see a really, really close-up version of these tiny, minute pieces of solder. So I'm just laying the little pot on its side. And once again, I can't stress how important it would be to have those helping hands. So I'm just using a couple pairs of pliers just to kind of keep the little pot stable so it doesn't roll around while I'm trying to solder it. So, and I'm just grabbing out a little bit of flux, and I'm going to flux the back of that little brass rivet so that the metal is clean and the solder will stick. So you can see I'm just kind of going around the side with some flux, making sure that the whole entire bottom of it is completely covered. And then I'm just going to place it onto the little cap. So I want it to be fairly close to the top ridge, but not all the way to the top. So, and then I'm just going to take a little piece of solder and plunk it into the hole. And you have no idea how small that hole is. It's kind of hard to get it in there. I should have actually used tweezers. But I do end up getting it in there in the end. I think I drop a couple pieces before I finally pull it off. There I go. No, there you go, I dropped it. Ay, ay, ay. So, not as easy to do as one might think. So, I think I end up having to grab yet another piece of solder. I'm trying to find something here that I can get the solder to stick to so that I can, yeah, and that does not work. So, I'm just grabbing it with my fingers. And if I was better organized, I would have had tweezers and I wouldn't have had to fiddle around with it. Okay, now I've got the solder on the inside. So then I'm going to be lighting the torch and I'm going to heat this thing up. And you can see here, I'm just kind of going around in circles. I want that brass piece to turn bright red, and then that way I'll know that the solder has spread. So I don't know what's going on. I think I've got some bad propane or sorry, butane in my torch because it keeps on shutting on and off. And of course, it wouldn't do that if I was not videoing. As soon as you turn on the video camera, of course, everything goes wrong. So, um, my husband is just refilling it quickly for me here. And so I will be back in 2 seconds, hopefully with a torch that works. There we go. So that's a better side view of the way this looks. And as you can see, that's a perfect little brass mount to be able to mount a handle in it. So I'm just going to light the torch, and there you go. See, it keeps on going out on me. Crazy thing. Does improve later. I think the first one was the biggest challenge. So, yeah, nothing worse than having a torch that keeps on turning off. Um, and you know that you can buy really cheap torches like this, and they are just not worth it. It's way worth it to spend the extra money and get a good brand name one like a Braun or a Ronson. This particular one is just a real cheapie from Canadian Tire. For those of you that aren't in Canada, Canadian Tire is kind of like a hardware store here where you can get everything. So, So, still trying to heat it up. I think we're on pot number 2 now. So, it's taken a little bit of time, but some things are just really, really worth the effort. And I think these little pots turn out so cute. You can see the solder melting. There you go. So it's melted. That's a perfect solder joint. Awesome. So then I've got 3 more to do. So for the handles, I've got some, I guess they'd be coffee stir sticks. I got them when I was on an airplane, and I thought, oh, these are the perfect things for doing miniatures. So I've been saving them forever until I found just the right project for this. So this is pot number 3. And see how it's nice and cherry red? That's how I know that for sure it is soldered. So then I'm going to move along and do the other 3. See, I'm just touching it with a little toothpick just to make sure that it's not moving, and it's not. These fireproof bricks are just perfect for doing this kind of work. So once again, I'm setting pot number 3 up. And I probably will not subject you to me soldering all 5 of these pots. I think this is the last one that I did on camera. So once again, I'm adding the flux. I'm putting the little brass rivet on the top. And then I'm going to drop a little tiny piece of solder into the hole without fumbling it this time. Haha. There you go. First time was the charm. And then I'm going to light the torch. And I'm going to solder this piece on. So I just think these pots are so cute. And it's funny because, whenever you look at anything that's made out of copper for dollhouse, it's extremely expensive. And these little copper caps were 61 cents each. And I already had the rivets. So each one of these pots only cost me 61 cents to make. That's pretty good. I think that's like awesome if you can do a craft that looks that cool and it doesn't cost you a lot of money. That's just wonderful when that happens. So you can see here, I'm turning it completely bright red. And as soon as it's bright red, you know you got it. So I don't know why some oxidize more than others when you're soldering. It just sort of happens. Um, and looks like I got it. So the third time was the charm. So we're just gonna let that cool off. They get really hot when you do this work. Um, so I'm just showing you the side view of what it looks like. And that's the little rivet. And here's a close up of those coffee stir sticks that I got on the airplane. See how cool the end is? It's like really neat. And it just so happens that it fits just absolutely perfectly into that little rivet. So that's what the little handles are going to look like. And of course, the rivets are already soldered onto our little copper pots. So yeah, I'm quite pleased. I think that looks really neat. So after I was finished soldering them, I put them into a pickle solution. So the pickle solution is a dry acid compound. And a lot of people, when they solder, they throw whatever it is that they soldered in while it was still like red hot. It doesn't matter with this pickling solution. You can do it after the fact. What's important is that the water that you mix with the pickling solution is really hot. So that water is hot, hot, hot. And then I've added the pickling solution, and even just letting them sit in there for a good 20 minutes. Look, I didn't even have to polish that. Like, that turned out perfect. These ones here are more oxidized than the first two. So I'll leave them in there for another half an hour or so, and they'll come out just as clean as this. So I've now cut the little coffee stir sticks, and that's what the finished product is going to look like, although I don't want to leave it the natural wood color. So I just have to cut it off at about that measurement and then put it inside, and that's like perfect. I think that looks really good, if I do say so myself. So I've got some Gorilla Clear Grip, and that's the one that's made for metal, glass, fabric, wood, and it basically will glue any two types of properties together. I think it takes a little bit of a stronger glue to metal than my normal tacky glue. So I've just put a little bit on this little piece of plastic, and I'm going to dip the end into it, and then I'm going to insert all of the little wooden handles into the pots. So it's going to take quite a while for these little handles to completely dry, so it probably won't be completely dry until tomorrow. But here's what they look like with the handles mounted on them. I think they look really cute. They're really neat. I love anything that's made out of copper, though. I think it's really cool. So I've got some black acrylic paint out, and I'm just going to go ahead and paint these little handles. So you can see I've gone after it with the paintbrush and painted the little handles. And so now all 5 of my little pots are complete. So I think they look so sweet. I'm really proud of them. I think they're really neat. So a really inexpensive way to pull off copper pots. Now, if you don't have a torch and you want to glue the handles on, you can do so with like some E6000, or you could also use that Gorilla Clear glue that I just showed you earlier. If you wanted to make, say, a sauce pot that's got handles on both sides, you could use hook and eyes and glue those on the side. I just wanted to do little pots with a handle. So I hope you enjoyed this little tutorial. It's an easy one that anybody can do. If you haven't already subscribed to my channel, please subscribe, as it really helps my channel grow. I'm almost at 600 subscribers. Hit that like button and tell your friends about my channel.